The Toronto Blue Jays lose an absolute heartbreaker at Yankee Stadium by the score of 3-2 in walk-off fashion. It was a tough game with a lot of questionable decisions, so we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, if you just witnessed that Jays collapse in the ninth inning, man, I feel sorry for you, but we were both there the entire way as well, and it was a really rough game to watch. A lot of questionable decisions throughout by John Schneider, by just the team in general. So, what did you think of that, Nick?
Brutal. It was a brutal watch, though there was a couple good things, and that was Alek Manoah and I guess Danny Jansen. But before we do get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're going to have lots of games like this throughout the year where the result is not what we wanted, but today's was particularly bad, and let's just get into it, Peter. Jays lose a brutal game, and we have kind of a theme, which you can kind of tell by the thumbnail, which I'm going to personally touch on, and I'm sure Peter as well, later in the video. But let's just discuss everything that happened before all of that, and let's start with the hitting. Not great. George Springer 1 for 4, Bo Bichette 1 for 4, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 1 for 3, Dalton Varsho 1 for 4, Alejandro Kirk, and Danny Jansen obviously came in for the pinch hit home run. But what were your thoughts on just their plate approach today, and I guess the game in general before we go into some of the pitching?
Yeah, their hitting with runners in scoring position has been atrocious all season long, and with two outs, it's been even worse. They don't even have a 100 OPS, which, to put into perspective, that like we could probably have 100 OPS if we were to play in the big leagues tomorrow, and that's not even like an outrageous statement to say. They've been that bad with runners in scoring position, and specifically today as well. They started off the game well, second and third base with one out against Garrett Cole, who's been the best pitcher on planet Earth, and they couldn't capitalize. Then the next inning, first and second, one out, couldn't capitalize. And then before Danny Jansen hit that miraculous two-run home run that came out of absolute nowhere, they also had another opportunity with Bo Bichette, who led off with a double. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. trying to play hero ball, trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark, instead hitting a ground ball to the right side against Clay Holmes, who's a sinker baller. So it's these little things that we keep touching on that, at least in my perspective, makes me believe that this team is very far away from contention because they can't do these little things to manufacture runs. They do them some games, and then other games they're just not able to push those go-ahead runs in and to put pressure on the opposing pitching staffs. They just can't do it. They haven't shown the ability to do it this season. Hopefully it can turn around, but it's been pretty bleak so far.
Yeah, really bad. And today was just a brutal game all around. I'll give you one more quick look at the box score before we move on here. And Whit Merrifield went 1 for 4. He had a nice hit there in the ninth. But like you said, just the little things, even something as simple as Kevin Biggio not being able to lay down a bunt in the top of the ninth after Danny Jansen's home run is something that can't really happen. And I don't know. Very, very frustrating. I'm not going to harp too much on that right now, but let's move into the second topic, which is just Manoah dominates. And there's kind of an underlining theme here, which I'm going to touch on right now. And before I do, let's give credit to Alek Manoah. He did absolutely phenomenal today. Absolutely dominant. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, throwing just 80 pitches before Jimmy Garcia took over. So, Jimmy Garcia obviously took over in the 8th inning in a 0-0 game. It was, of course, 0-0 game. He came in and he gave up a 2-run home run there, which, like I said, put the Yankees up by 2 runs. And Peter, before I start to rant about it, because I'm going to have a minute here, what were your thoughts on John Schneider's decision to take Alek Manoah out of the game against the 7, 8, 9 hitters with only 80 pitches in a game where his stuff looked unbelievable, the best of the year, the slider was going, he was throwing 94. What were your thoughts on that? Because me personally, made no sense from John Schneider and a few questionable decisions.
Yeah, too many analytics came into play over there, and if you play the numbers game, Alek Manoah hasn't been good all season long, and then you're banking on him not being good in that 8th inning after throwing 85 pitches, which I do understand, but you got to go with your gut there. This is not some middle of the road starter. This is a guy who was a Cy Young finalist last season and who's been absolutely dominant in his career so far at Yankee Stadium. So you got to go with your gut there, and you got to leave him in that game. He earned that right to go back out there for that 8th inning, and then you take it away for him. You take it away from him for Jimmy Garcia, who has struggled in his past couple of outings, who hasn't looked good, and then he gives up that 2-run home run to Anthony Volpe. So I just don't like the analytical approach that John Schneider has been taking lately with the bullpen. We saw it in the playoffs as well when he brought in Tim Mesa to face Carlos Santana, and I hate going back to that game because it brings up some bad memories because I was there and I witnessed it firsthand. But you got to go with your gut feeling, and myself just watching the game, there's no way you take Manoah out of that game. Like in no moment in time did he look overmatched by the Yankees lineup. They looked overmatched by Alek Manoah, and you just got to go off base what you've seen, and it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you made a good point there, and I think the big key here is that it was Manoah's game to lose, and ultimately they didn't even give him a chance to pitch out the eighth inning, which is something that he clearly wanted to do. He was arguing with John Schneider about him staying in the game, and like you said, just, I don't know, a very questionable decision by John Schneider, and it's not the first time he's overmanaged the bullpen, like you said, obviously in the wild card series, but even other times throughout the year to start this year, and let alone putting in Jimmy Garcia, who not
Yeah.
only pitched yesterday, but has been off to a very shaky start, coming into the game with a 6 ERA. Now, it's a little bit inflated, but it's not like he was bringing in Jordan Romano or even Eric Swanson or someone who you maybe have a bit more faith in. You're coming off someone who literally pitched yesterday against a New York Yankees team that, very important game, and I don't understand
Yeah.
any reason in the world, I guess besides analytics, not to throw Manoah out there, but it's not even like it was against the top of the order. It was against a 7, 8, 9. Why don't you just put him out there, see what happens, and pull him if you have to?
No, I would have kept him out there. There's no doubt about that. And like you said, the overmanaging, we've seen it time and time again with John Schneider, but this loss is not on him. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it. I know you might disagree with me here, but the loss is on the players. And 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position, 8 men left on base, just to name a few. What else? What else can I pinpoint here? Your all-star closer coming in can't even get it out in the bottom of the ninth. That's another issue that we're going to talk about here. So, yes, it is some fault of John Schneider, but you got to look at those other things as well. And I keep going back to it. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. It's the little things that the Jays have not been able to do early on in the season, and even last year they weren't able to do the little things to close out ball games. They would win a lot of games by 5 runs, and then they would lose the games that were close, and it's been a common theme so far. They were in this game the entire way. There's no reason as to why they should just fall apart like that at the end, and they did. And it's not because of John Schneider. It's because of a multitude of factors, and they got to figure those things out. But luckily, it's still early. I don't want to overreact, and they can figure it out. And I think they will figure it out with some more experience playing with one another, and maybe a few additions here and there.
Yeah, and I'll clarify. I completely agree with you. The game, John Schneider didn't lose us the game. The players not being able to hit, if they hit like they should be able to, or at least not been horrible at it, they wouldn't even put John Schneider in this situation. I just think that, I don't know, if you're going to win in the World Series or even win in the playoffs, you have to be better at managing your bullpen than John Schneider has been so far. And I'm
But
hoping.
let me ask you this, Nick. Let me ask you this as well. Okay, so we're harping on, I guess, the leaving Manoah out there and all that. But once you go to the playoffs, it's very rare that you're going to get 8 innings out of your starter. So you need relievers that you can trust. And right now, I only have two that I can trust. I only have two in Eric Swanson and Jordan Romano. That's it. And even Romano lately has kind of trended downwards. Although I think he'll be fine. I think this is just a one-off again. But you need more than two relievers or three relievers if you want to add Zach Pop in there that you can trust come playoff time. And I think that's what John Schneider is trying to figure out here early on in the season. I know that the losses hurt and that we want them to be able to win these close games. But at the same time, you got to be able to pitch in these close games. And you can't rely on an 8 inning, 90 pitch outing out of Alek Manoah every time he's out there. It's not sustainable. You need reliable bullpen arms, and if you don't have that, you might as well not even try to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, the bullpen has been a big question mark, and that's kind of, I guess, lost in this game was that neither of our bullpen was able to go a clean inning at all. Garcia obviously runs, and this wasn't updated, but Jordan Romano ended up giving up his run there. Didn't even record an out, like you said, so it's a very good point you make, and I don't know. It's a bit rough, but at the end of the day, we'll move on. Tomorrow we have a chance to win the series, and that would be a success in itself. Let's keep in mind that they're playing in New York. Very tough schedule to start the year. Now, that doesn't excuse any of the little mistakes, but it is a tough schedule. But I don't know, very, very frustrating game. But quick shout out once again to Danny Jansen for coming up, pinch hitting after sitting all day and hitting a clutch 2-run home run off Wandy Peralta. gave some hope to Jays fans after the collapse there. But
Yeah.
ultimately, Jordan Romano, and I even texted you it. It just had a feeling that the Blue Jays didn't really deserve this game at all. They didn't deserve to win the game. They didn't outplay the Yankees, and Manoah was the main highlight of this game, and something that the Jays can at least build on and have some key positive. But anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, you said it all there. You said it all. They did not deserve to win this game. They were in it, but let's not mistake it for them being recipients of a win at the end of it. They blew it. They deserved to lose, and this is another learning point for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think this is good. They got a chance to win the series with Kevin Gausman on the mound tomorrow. And I think if you were to tell them that they were taking 2 out of 3 in this series, then they'd be very happy. So let's go get a win tomorrow.
I agree, and the pitching has been great, so hopefully Kevin Gausman can continue that, and I have a lot of faith in that. But thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow.